Hey ho, pixels.
Let's go.
Are back. We are back for another episode of 2 Pixels Off. I'm here with Brad Hussey, the Huss Dog from the Tundra in Canada. We're super excited to be here. Today, we are going to be talking about, do you even have a freaking good business?
Welcome to 2 Pixels Off, a podcast for creative entrepreneurs.
Or are you just winging it? That's what the problem is for so many creative entrepreneurs out there. They're just doing the work and doing the work and doing the work without getting a 30,000 foot view of what they're actually creating, which is a business, and a business has structured things that make it a good business. We're going to talk about those things today. Before we jump in, shout out to Wix Studio for making 2 Pixels Off and this podcast and this episode a possible, and we're super grateful for that. And you know what? I want to shout out the people at Wix are just freaking awesome. And Brad and I have both been working with the people at Wix for the last couple of years on variety of different content offerings and things. And the people are just great. They're good people. It's so fun. Yeah. And an ambitious company too. An ambitious company that is accelerating in the improvement of all of their systems, continually offering new things, especially inside of Wix Studio. There's all kinds of new features that keep getting added. It's been so fun. So shout out to the good people at Wix Studio and Wix in general. Brad and I love working with your brand.
Cheers to that.
So good. Yep.
Oh yeah. Tons of fun.
Yep. All right. Today, Brad, we are going to go into, and we did good on our last episode of making a little more shotgun, a little more ping pong, a little more speedy delivery. We're going to do the same thing today without the game, without the scoring, without all the stuff. So those of you who like that episode, you will be disappointed that we're not going to go all in on that this time. But we are going to do a little ping pong match of what actually makes a good business. What do we have to have in place so that we're not just operating willy-nilly as a freelancer, just hoping the next project comes in without even understanding the business that we're actually creating for ourselves? So Brad, what would you say is like the first thing that a real business has that we should talk about?
Yes, you need to have a vision of it. You need to know what it is you're trying to make in the first place. Like, have a goal to work towards. Because it's like if you had a map and you just said, I'm driving. That sounds romantic. Sure. But knowing where you're going, having that pin on the map, then you can kind of chart your path to get to that place. And if you don't have that, then you're kind of just driving around aimlessly.
Yeah. I didn't have one at the beginning. Like the first couple years of my agency, I was just a scared freelancer. Just hoping the phone would ring, hoping the email would come in, hoping to get another project. That's what I was doing. I didn't have this business vision of creating an agency. So I was just operating willy-nilly, and I wasted 2 years that I could have been progressing toward building an agency by putting in the things that I needed to have in place if I would have had the vision early on, and I just didn't. I think there are a few different options. You can be a digital nomad and use some contractors and just work when you want to from whatever beach you're at. You can do that. You can build a little boutique agency. You can build a remote agency. You can build a full in-office studio. You can do a variety of different visions that you can have as a creative entrepreneur, but pick one. Pick one and know what you're actually trying to freaking build so that you can build it.
Yep. Love it. What's next?
Okay. Next one. Look at us being brief. Okay, the next thing that a real business has is defined goals and objectives. What are your freaking goals? At my agency, we had a thing, and this wasn't until like year 5, but I bought this big wall splat of Chewbacca. You know, Chewbacca from Star Wars, and I put it on the wall, and then I had a metal board next to it that I mounted to the wall, and then I put on there the goals that I had for the agency. And they were all magneted to this, and I called it the Chewbacca board. I can't find a picture of it. I wish I could, but I'm hoping someday on a backup drive I find a picture of this thing. But I had things like, I want to land a $100,000 project. I want to win this award. I want to land a $200,000 project. I want to take my whole team to Disneyland. That was one of my goals. We didn't ever accomplish that one, but it was one of the goals that I had for my agency to take the team and their families to Disneyland. We went to the local amusement park by us and did company parties for that. But the first 5 years I had no goals. My goal was land another project and put rice on the table. That was my goal. And it's such a wussy goal. So don't be afraid to strive to achieve something. Put the awards you want to win, put the project sizes you want to land, put the clients you want to land, the names of those clients. You want to work for Disney, then put it on a freaking board somewhere that you see it every day, but create goals. Otherwise, you're just operating aimlessly without any objective.
Yeah. And don't associate those goals and objectives with your identity. Whether like if you don't achieve that goal or you do achieve it, like don't associate and tie your identity to it, so that if you don't get that $100,000 client, or you don't land a Disney, or you don't take your team, to this specific place as a retreat, then you're a failure. And like, don't do that. Like, all I think the goals and objectives really are opportunities to make doing your business fun. It gives you kind of like things to strive towards and accomplish, whether or not you nail it or not, or it changes a little bit. It just gives you something to work towards. Like the Olympics are currently at the time of this recording happening after, it'll be done by the time you're listening to this. But it's like those athletes had a goal. They're not just like, you know what? I want to run. I like running and I'm going to run. And you're like, great, that's fine. But if you're like, I want to make a living and I want to make a name out of running for myself, and I want to compete, I want to be the best runner, I want to get in the Olympics. There's your goal. You have whether you put it up on a board or you have it, on your phone, or you just remind yourself and you kind of work towards it. It helps structure what you're doing and gives it a bit of a purpose, but don't tie your identity to it if you achieve it or don't. It's just more so to make it fun. Gamify it.
Gamify. Okay, I like that. And it doesn't have to be like project size or client or whatever. You can make it apply to your own business. Maybe it's that you want to take a 1 month beach trip this summer and work from the beach somewhere, Bali or whatever. That's your dream. That's the goal. You put it on the list. So it can apply to any type of business that you're trying to create. Maybe it's just, I want to take Friday off every day all summer. That's my goal. And so you structure the rest of your life around that. But I can promise you, if you don't create a goal, you're never going to accomplish it. You got to put the goal in place so that you can work toward accomplishing it. If you don't put the goal there, then you're never going to accomplish any of this stuff. It's just going to be like things happening to you, independent of, you're going to be the recipient of whatever happens instead of going and trying to make things happen.
Yeah, that's a great one to end on. The next piece that makes you a real business versus not a real business, and just kind of, fluttering about, is to have a real financial plan for sustaining the business. So know the numbers. We come back to this idea of speak the language of business, which is data. One of those data points is numbers, like your financials rather. And if you know what it costs out, it's like there's two factors here. There's what comes in and there's what goes out. And so what goes out is very important to know. That's what it costs to pay you. If you have contractors or staff, any of the expenses, all of the expenses that your business has. And then you say, well, that's my number. I need to make more than that number every month or every week or every year, however you look at it and forecast it. And then you can start to make plans of, how do I sustain that number? If I'm always above that, then I know I'm okay. Even if we have a low month, if I'm above that, then I put that away. You can actually make a plan. So have the numbers in front of you. Understand that's what it costs me to run this. That's what I need in order to be baseline sustainable and or ideally profitable.
It's awesome. If you're just letting it happen willy-nilly on the numbers, on the financial numbers, you're not going to have the motivation to bump up those prices, to Hire that person. You're going to have the confidence to hire that person or that contractor because you don't have a financial plan in place. So I like what you said about knowing your floor, knowing what you need to bring in, but also choose a financial goal of what you want to bring in every month. I want my business to be making 10 grand a month, 15 grand a month, 100 grand a month, whatever that number is. And I want to hire X number of people and I want to have profitability of this margin. And then you track that over time and work toward that financial plan, accomplishing that financial plan. But real businesses, they have that. And real businesses like the stock traded companies, they have to release their quarterly earnings and tell all the shareholders what's happening financially in their business. You should know that too. So many people, I do a lot of one-on-one coaching for creative entrepreneurs. And so many times in the first couple calls, I'm like, how much did you bill last month? How much did you bill last year? How much are you year to date? And then I can compare these numbers. And so many of them don't know those financial numbers. You got to have those financial numbers in place. I help them create a goal. Okay, here's what we're going to be targeting and here's how we're going to get there. But so many people don't know it in advance and real businesses do.
Yep.
All right, next one. This is mine to start, right? Or is this yours? This is mine.
Yours.
Yeah. All right. You need to have a clearly defined target customer. Who are you trying to freaking sell to? You got to know that so that you can speak in the right way. It is the tent pole of all of your marketing. And we're going to talk about some of the things that are on that tent pole in the next couple of things. But the first thing is to say, I'm going to define my target audience, my target customer. Mm-hmm. Do you have anything to add? I know we go into it in like the next 3 or 4 topics here too.
You know what I want to do is I'm going to add one of those tent poles, as you mentioned, because you got to know, as you just said, who the customer is. And when you know who they are, then you can just forget everybody else and then understand what that customer's common problems and pain points, or the way I like to put it is, what do they suffer with? That's a niche version of a problem, let's call it, because I have an itchy back right now, but I'm going to show you.
No, don't show us your itchy back. No.
See, look, I solved my problem.
No, don't watch the video version of this. Brad is pulling his shirt up. He's got all kinds of hair and acne.
And muscles for days.
All right. I'm just kidding. He didn't pull his shirt up. He didn't pull his shirt up. I was
scratching it with a pen. I took a pen. I scratched my itch. So that was a problem. I just solved it.
Yeah.
Now, if I had an actual problem, like I broke my back, I can't use a pen to solve that. That's a suffering. Yeah. So what does your customer suffer with? And then once you know what they suffer with, I'm going to let you take off the next, put up the next tent pole.
Then you create products and services that solve that suffering. You solve that problem for the customer. So if we kind of bundle this into 3 things, it is know who you're talking to, who your customer is, know what their problem is, and then position your services to solve that problem. Now you can create a marketing plan, and real businesses have a marketing plan.
Yeah.
Dude, that was good. I would like mic drop that part right there.
You mic dropped that for sure.
In our last game,
dropped.
Yeah. Oh, I like it. I like it. In our last episode, I would have gotten a 99 on that. I'd have gotten a 99.
You would have. Can I just say right now?
Yeah.
Don't do this because then I'm giving you too much work. But your next podcast needs to be called Mic Drops.
Oh, what? I got to do that. I'm going to cancel What the Helvetica. We're going to change it to Mic Drops.
Mic Drops.
Oh, you know what? I really like that actually. I'm going to look into.
Write it down.
Look into that. Mic Drops. All right.
Boom. Okay.
Boom. Okay. Next one.
You mentioned.
Wait, that's the one. That's not the one. We got this one right here. Brad and I are sharing a screen together right now.
We got notes. We're prepared. Yeah. We're professionals here. We're professional podcasters. Just don't mind us. We're doing our job. Okay, so once you've got what the client suffers with, the customer suffers with, and who they are, what they suffer with, and then products and services that can relieve that suffering, what you need to start doing now is staying abreast of industry trends, let's say. So know what's going on in the industry, in your industry as a service provider, but also in the industry of your clients and your customers. So let's say you're in the creative services business. You should probably know what's going on with Figma, what's going on with Wix Studio. What was that acquisition that Adobe didn't do? What was like, know these things, whether you get yourself a newspaper or a journal or online publication, whatever it is, stay on top of that. Go to a conference or two, even if it's virtual, but then also stay on top of what's going on in your customer's industry. So one of my primary customers, the industry is the creator industry. So it's people who use email marketing tools, online courses. They talk about automations. They use social media. I can understand what's disrupting their world and what's new in their world. So when ConvertKit, say, for example, rebrands to Kit and they have new automation tools, or this tool, this beloved tool over here gets acquired, I know it. And so I could speak the same language as my customers, but I'm also aware of tools like Wix Studio just announced new features so that I can offer better solutions to my clients using that tool. Stay on top of those industry trends, both in your industry and your clients.
It was well said. Both of those things, super important. Okay, I'm going to go on to the next one. This one relates to your competitors. Real businesses understand who their competitors are. They understand the strengths and weaknesses of their competitors versus their own strengths and weaknesses so that they can position themselves properly in the marketplace. You don't want to go head to head on all the same strengths that your competitor has. You want to find ways to differentiate. So you got to understand your competitors. You got to differentiate so that you can capitalize on the certain quantity of the market that you're trying to serve in the best way.
Yeah, it's nailed it. If your competitor is zigging, then you can zag. That's, a little bit of a, cheesy way of putting it, or cookie cutter way of putting it, but it's true. Find ways that there's probably certain things that you need to be the same on, but then you need to find differentiators that make you stand out or different or better or faster or funnier or more serious, whatever it is. Find opportunities to do something different, pick up the ball where they're leaving some slack, eat their lunch, whatever it is you got to do. Ethically, of course.
Good. Eat their lunch, pick up their slack, pick up the ball, take their ball. What'd you say? Punch them and steal their ball? Is that
yeah, it was like
back
them into a corner.
It was very aggressive. Very aggressive.
Got a little bit. It got a little heavy.
It did get a little heavy.
But it is what it is, I suppose.
Okay.
Next up, I'm going to say, understand and have, I would almost say like a swipe file or some sort of universal document that you have on your computer, whatever tool you use. Could be a Google Drive or Notion or just notes of marketing taglines, statements, messaging, things that basically you can always kind of go back to and look and say, like, what are the things that we say? How do we explain our products and services? How do we explain our business? What are some phrases, statements, messaging? This will help you not only to understand what you're doing, but to almost have kind of like a single source of truth. In the design world, a lot of designers and product designers will use what's called a design system. And that's basically a universal document that the team, whether it's a team of 2 or a team of 2,000, can refer to as a single source of truth. These are our colors. This is our fonts. This is the kerning between our primary heading font. This is how we use these user interface components. This is how we explain our products, services, that sort of stuff. Almost have your own design system or your messaging or marketing system that you can look at as a single source of truth.
It's good. It's like, I use the metaphor of like a sales toolbox, where you could say it's a marketing toolbox. So you always have this little tool set of marketing statements, of ways to explain your services, of if they say this, I'll say this kinds of strategies. And you make this whole toolkit of that. And then when you're sitting with clients or potential clients in the real world, those things come out of you naturally. Now, if you look at this last batch of things, Brad, we're on one that is right now your marketing toolkit, we could call it, our marketing messaging toolkit. But it comes after you understand your audience, you understand their problems, you've positioned your services to solve their problems, you understand the industry that you're serving with the industry trends, and you understand the competitors that you're going against and the things that they might be stronger in you than you at or weaker than you at, so that you can use the right marketing strategy to most effectively sell your business. And that's where all this kind of comes together. You understand those things, and then the deliverable at the end is a marketing toolkit, a branding toolkit, or a sales toolkit. Okay.
Yeah, it's a cascading. It's basically if anyone knows web development, CSS is called a cascading style sheet, and basically it's based on the rule of it's a cascade of effects. So one thing causes, or it kind of comes after one another. So it's contingent on the ones that come before. So understanding your vision, and then your goals, and then your customer, and then their problems and your solutions. How do you communicate that? What does that look like? And so now we're getting into, I mentioned a kind of a design system. That's what designers use, product designers, for like your favorite software tools or companies. They have design systems. You kind of need your own design system, style guide, a visual brand guideline, a brand toolkit, whatever you want to call it. It's basically an established single source of truth for your visual brand, your logo, variations of your logo, your color palette, how you apply those color palettes, your typography, font sizes even. You might just open up a Figma design and create your own design system for your brand. How do you present yourself visually, and how do you do it consistently? So whether it's just you creating social graphics with Canva, or you hire somebody to create marketing collateral for your latest email campaign, they can refer to your design system, your visual brand guidelines, and know that it's always going to be consistent.
So good. It's so important. Real businesses, and that's the heart of this podcast episode, real businesses have this. When I was at Fox, just our foxkids.com style guide was like 65 or 68 pages, something like that, just for the website. The style guide, I was in a group of 3 other creative directors, or 2 other creative directors and me, and we created the Fox Family Style Guide. It was like 200 something pages, that style guide. And so real businesses create this guideline for their brands, and you need to have at least a micro version of that for your brand. And for those of us that are designy, it's super fun to create it. It's super fun. I freaking love it.
Is.
I love that stuff.
Yeah.
All
I
right.
want you to take the next one, because the one that comes after, I have something to mention that I'd like to touch on.
Oh, you're gonna give a mic drop on that one?
I'm going to do a mic drop.
On the next one? I'm excited to see what your mic drop looks like. Okay. The next one, after you have this positioning and all the stuff we've been talking about, and you have a visual brand, now you need to create marketing materials to gain exposure. Those marketing materials can be things like your website. If you still believe in business cards, maybe you have a little business card, or you have a little brochure, some kind of leave behind, or some little tchotchke thing that you can leave with your potential clients that you meet, some kind of thing that remains to help you gain exposure for your business. A social media channel, pick one and go all in on one social media channel and try and build an audience there. You should be doing some of that, but you can't do it until you get all these other things in place. So this is the next one on the list, is marketing materials to gain exposure.
Yeah, I like that one. Now, contingent on that, because the marketing is what you do to get people to come in to create exposure and noise and awareness of your brand. Well, you need to be able to close those. You need to be able to use those that traffic, the eyeballs, that awareness, and you need to be able to close some of those. So you need so real businesses have sales strategies to find and sell clients. So finding clients, well, there's your marketing. It's kind of bring them to you. You can also go and get them. So there's the inbound marketing, but there's also outbound. You go out and you make things happen. So real business has a sales strategy. What I like about a sales strategy, it eliminates the guesswork and it controls what you can control. There's certain things that you don't have control over in your business. And if you're relying on that, you can get anxious and it feels scary. But when you feel like you have an element of control on taking action, it really is comforting and it feels good. So I like to do something called the rule of ones. And it's not my idea. I read it somewhere and it really resonated, and putting it into practice, it really does work. And so I tell especially new creative business owners and agencies and freelancers, I really recommend this. So the rule of ones is like, you have one target client, one problem, one solution, okay, and then one marketing channel, one sales method. And what that does is it eliminates so many variables, and it's still following the format that we just did of real businesses have these things. So you just mentioned earlier, pick one social channel. If you find out LinkedIn is the one and you feel like you can do a good job there and it's great, your customers are there, you've realized that's where they hang out. Or in my case, there's a community that I pay to be a part of and my customers are there. Just pick that and and then one sales strategy instead of lots, because there's lots of sales strategies. Could be through webinars, could be through online calls, it could be through meeting them in person, it could be through like an online checkout through an email. I mean, there's lots of different ways, but then it's hard to track and see what's working. So, and do that one thing for, let's call it 1 year or 1 quarter, if it's like a test or an experiment. So do those all those one things, for like one period of time to see how it's working. So real businesses have a sales strategy. And if you're a small business, if you have too many sales strategies, it's going to be hard to know what's really working. So pick one and give it an amount of time to test it.
Okay. What are the categories again? Because I like this.
Okay.
One what?
One customer.
One what? One customer.
Yep. Mm-hmm. One problem.
One problem. Okay.
One solution.
Uh-huh.
One marketing method.
Okay.
One sales method.
It's pretty solid. That's a mic drop. That's a mic drop right there. Yeah. That's pretty solid. I like that. Take some of that confusion out of it, some of that fear, some of that, and so many of you feel it that are listening, so much of that chaos feeling. Oh man, I got to post here and I got to post there and I got to do this and I got to call that person back. And your day feels so chaotic. If you distill it down to this idea of the rule of ones, I like that.
Cool.
I like it. Good job, Brad. By the way, I looked up the rule of ones, and you want to know what it says?
Tell me.
One times a number is that number. That's the main idea behind the rule of ones. That was what Google thought we were looking for, but it isn't, but it is truth. Yeah. 3 times 1 is 3. 4 times 1 is 4.
Yeah. It's just, the whole point is just to minimize the complexity and just drill down in one way.
I really, really like it. Okay. Now that you've landed projects, you got your marketing, your sales in place.
Yeah.
Now you need you need a process to track the opportunities. Now that you have your marketing and sales in place and you're meeting potential clients, you're getting leads, you need something to track all that. So get a CRM of some sort so you can track your opportunities and track your win-loss ratio and track your follow-ups and your communication with all of your potential clients so that you can actually close these deals.
Yep.
CRM.
Perfect. Next, real businesses have a defined strategy for pricing your products or services. So we talked about this in a previous episode. The triple threat model is my favorite. So it's basically creating a tiered system of 3 options. And it's basically, it minimizes the analysis paralysis for the customer. It gives them an opportunity to choose how they want to proceed with you. So they feel like they're in control. They don't feel like you're shoving your price down their throat and take it or leave it. They get to choose, and you get an opportunity for them to basically pick their adventure, and then you could deliver on that. It's a really good model for pricing your products and services. So I recommend the triple threat model, and that's where you have a low priced entry level price with a really streamlined service or product that's like automated or almost automated. a baseline price, which is your standard service. And it's also streamlined, but it's kind of what they come to expect. And then your big kahuna, crazy big price VIP version of the offer. And that does two things. It creates an opportunity for the client to potentially buy that, but it also price anchors and it makes your middle of the road option seem like a great deal. So that's how I would price that. So have a good strategy.
I like it. We had an entire episode on the triple threat pricing model. If you haven't watched that episode or listened to it, that one's a good one. My pricing strategy, and I think the point of this is that a real business has a pricing strategy. They know how they're going to price their work, where they want to price it inside the market that they're competing in, where they want to price it in comparison to their competitors, etc. My pricing methodology is in my book. The Psychology of Graphic Design Pricing.
Yeah, it is.
Psychology of Graphic Design Pricing. This started as a blog post, Brad. I was like, when I first started doing content, I was like, I'm going to write a blog post about how I price stuff. And then the blog post just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to make a whole freaking book.
Turned into a book.
And I wrote it in like a month on my back deck of my house.
Wow.
Sitting outside. Yeah.
It's awesome.
It was like, once I dug in, it was all flowing.
That's brilliant.
So anyway, you got to have a pricing strategy. You got to understand that. And real businesses know how they price their stuff relative to their customer and their competitors. Okay.
Next up.
The next one, a proposal template to use inside of sales. Okay, I'm going to do these next two, Brad, because you have to have a proposal template and you have to have a contract template. That's the next one after that. A proposal is the document you use to sell your client. A contract is the fine legal, all the details that you use to contract the client after they say yes to the proposal. They are two separate documents with two separate purposes. The proposal is to sell. The contract is to lock them in and have an agreement between you and your client. And you need to have both of those in place. Real businesses have teams of salespeople using proposal templates and things to sell. And they have teams of lawyers to contract all of these deals. They have teams of people in place for this. You can't afford a team most likely, but you at least got to have the freaking document for yourself. One of each of those, a proposal template and a contract template.
Yep. And if you're a small business and you don't have a big team or you don't want a big team, you decide you want a lifestyle business, there are tools and softwares that are very affordable on a monthly basis to help you with those proposal templates and those contract templates. Oftentimes they are the same tool that provide both of those as a service. Next, I would say is for each of the services you offer is to have standard operating procedures, a task list of instructions to execute on those services. Have a little manual, digital or physical, whatever you want, on your services. How do you conduct the marketing? How do you close the deal? And then most importantly, how do you produce the end result? How do you do the actual service? What are the steps? It's just your checklist. Even if you're the pilot and you're flying the plane, you still have the checklist that you put together and you follow. Now, even more so, if you have somebody helping you, they can follow the same standard operating procedures. It creates efficiency. It minimizes risk of doing something wrong. And it means that you get better and better. And you don't rely on memory and just your feelings. You just go off objectively. Here's how you deliver this service. So a production list, SOPs for each of your services.
So good. You need to have it in place. And once you have your SOPs in place, the next thing that you need is some kind of production software management tool. So you can manage your freaking projects. Does not cost very much, especially if you're like a solo freelancer. You can sign up for a teamwork or for a base camp, and it's literally is costing you $8 or $10, $12 a month kind of a thing. But you can put your projects in there and you can put your SOPs in there and you can work from your production processes. It's super, super critical, especially when you start to expand. There should be no creative business out there that is doing work with multiple different team members and they do not have some kind of production software that's helping them manage their projects. You got to have something in place.
Yep, absolutely. After that, speaking of systems and standard operating procedures, you'll notice that a number of these next ones kind of really hinge on that. It's contingent on the SOP. Your post-project review. Afterwards, when you finish the project, do you just let them go and that's it, one and done? No. Your current customers are your best source of new work within their, like, they might be repeat clients or they might send you new clients and customers through referrals. So you need a post-project review and upsell process. Instructions, standard operating procedures. Here's what you say. Here's how you make sure that the project is good. Here's how you wrap it up. Here's how you sell them on ongoing services. Here's how you ask for testimonials. Here's how you ask for referrals. And here's how long you check up. 1 month, 3 month, 6 month, 12 month.
I'm just going to say yummy to that. That was yummy. That's my feedback. That was yummy. Okay. The next thing you need to have, now that you're freaking collecting money because you got project done, now you need some kind of financial management software. You got to have something. And this software makes it easy. QuickBooks. One of the people that I'm doing coaching with uses something called Wave. All of these things connect to your own bank account.
Yep.
So you just connect it to your business bank account. It will show you all your transactions, and then you can just categorize them inside the software, and you can run reports like a profit and loss report. You can understand your profitability all from a piece of software like this. Real businesses are using software to manage their finances. They're not just like hoping that at the end of the year they're freaking profitable. Yep. And so many creative entrepreneurs are out there. They're collecting a check. They're putting it in their personal bank account. You shouldn't do that. You should have a business bank account and all the money goes in there and then you pay yourself out of the business bank account. It doesn't cost you anything with the bank. They want you to put your money in it. So go get a business bank account, put your money in there, pay yourself out of it, track those transactions for your business inside of some kind of financial management software.
And I would say, just to add to that piece, hire a accounting firm or an accountant. Just do that. Don't do, and this is my opinion, don't do your own taxes. Don't do your own profit and loss reports. Don't do that.
Don't do your own payroll. Don't do your own taxes.
Yeah.
Those two things. Don't do your own payroll and don't do your own taxes. I would run all my reports. I loved getting in the weeds of that and understanding my business. But I agree with you. Hire a freaking accountant. I went through 4 before I landed on the one that I've been using for like the last 15 years or so. But I went through 4 before I found the one that was right for me.
Yeah. Find a good one and hang on to them. They'll grow with you and they'll understand your business. And every year you kind of do your meeting where you say, here's how much money you owe the government and here's how well you're doing, what needs to change. And they can manage your QuickBooks and be tied in or whatever you're using. And it's beautiful. It saves me a ton. You pay for it, obviously, but I could never happily do my own bookkeeping in that way. I just don't. It crushes me. I like looking at the numbers. Hey, business is good. Money's good. The numbers I like are how much money we make, how much money we spend. Let's fix those. Let's make more money and let's spend less money. That's all I try to do. The rest of it is the accountant, and they just say, hey, good job, Brad. We did this. We reconciled. I'm like, oh, blah, 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 blah. You speak your own language over there and just tell me what I owe you. Tell me if you like it, and we'll see you next year.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a must. Real businesses have it. In fact, real businesses have teams of accountants that are working for them. You only need one. A little bookkeeper, somebody doing some bookkeeping, and somebody running your taxes and payroll. That's really what you need at the heart of it. Okay, the next thing that you need is a strategy for tracking and analyzing business data. The business data, and we've talked in this podcast about what data to track and stuff, and it's a little different for everybody. I have a bunch of content out there about what data I tracked, but there was no software that really did track the stuff that I wanted to see in the way I wanted to see it. And so I had like 3 spreadsheets that my office manager kept up. It was like my win-loss spreadsheet, my sales effort, or my sales tracker spreadsheet, And then I had a financial spreadsheet that told me when I needed to worry about money the next time. I was so worried about money. I had a whole spreadsheet that was my office manager would put in 2 numbers every other day or so, and I could tell when my next worry date was. I had these little spreadsheets. Create some spreadsheets for you that track the data points that you want to see in your business, and then watch them, because real businesses are tracking data. We mentioned financial management and publicly traded companies that are releasing their freaking earnings every single quarter. And it is minutia data. That's because real businesses are tracking their stuff. They're tracking the data, and they're making business decisions based on the data. And we've hit that point so many times in this pod.
This next one will be a short one because we've talked about it before in another episode, and we talked about it's contingent on the SOP. It kind of all ends up being that at this point, pretty much. But it's a strategy for hiring and scaling. So whether you want to stay small and lean and you just want to be a one-person business with some contractors, you still need to know, you still need to have a strategy for when do you hire and how do you scale? Where's the bottlenecks and how do you relieve those bottlenecks so that you can be sustainable, not only financially, but mentally? If you're just always weighed down by the bottlenecks and it always comes back to you and you're slowing things down and you can't relax at the end of the day or on the weekend because you're always in your way, then you need to have a strategy for recognizing when you need to hire, where you need to hire, and how you follow through on that. So an SOP for hiring, scaling is really important.
Yeah. And that can go back to the very first thing we talked about too, a vision of what you want to build. Do you want to even ever hire? How are you? Yeah. But you don't have to hire, but you do have to scale. That's my point on this. You do have to scale, meaning improve your business over time. You have to figure out what is my improvement strategy. And if it isn't building a team of people, then how are we going to improve profitability? How are we going to expand our services? How are we going to pivot with different software and different offerings that come out? How are we going to do that? You have to have strategies in place for that. But going back to the vision part, what kind of business do you want to create? Yeah, maybe your strategy isn't to hire a whole in-person team, but at least have a strategy that says, I don't want to hire an in-person team. So I'm going to scale my business by improving my own profitability and charging more to my customers and get to where I'm picking and choosing from the demand that I have. And that's your scaling strategy, but you got to have some kind of strategy in place for it. So strategy for hiring and scaling. Okay, Brad, the last one is this, and this is the one that so few people even think of in the creative space, but you got to have an exit strategy. What is the moment that you know that this business is done? I grew it to this and it's done. I baked this loaf of bread. It's done. Then what? And how do you know when that moment is? And that's your exit strategy. And for some people, it may be, okay, after I have $1 million in the bank, then my business is done, and then I'm going to retire to the beach and live somewhere. And that's your exit strategy. I'm going to retire by telling all my clients I'm not going to work for them anymore and I'm stepping away from my business. Or maybe your exit strategy is to sell, or maybe your exit strategy is to merge with somebody, or maybe your exit strategy is to downsize just to 2 or 3 clients that you can manage just yourself. And so you let your team go and they can pursue other new opportunities for them, but you go back down to you and you consult for a couple of years before you finish. What is the plan for you though? But what's the plan? And so many businesses are out there just being like, I'm just going to keep grinding, hope for the next project tomorrow, and then see what happens. Man, create a strategy for yourself. What do you want to see this become? And then know when it's done, what are you going to do?
Yeah. I like that. It's a good one to end on, the exit strategy.
It is the end one, because after that, then your business was great and you don't need any of the other stuff anymore. You're done.
Congratulations. You did it.
Yeah. You know what people do after they get their exit strategy? They start a new business. That's what they do. That's what they do.
Yeah.
That's what I did. I sold my agency. I took 6 months to sit in my hot tub. And then what did I do? I started freaking coaching and consulting and podcasts and content and courses and books. And I love the business I'm doing now. I love it. So, yep.
It's perfect.
Anyway, okay. You have any final thoughts, Brad, before we wrap up this episode?
Honestly, I think that this is a good one to come back to. It's almost like this could be a little milestone episode where if you need to like come back to kind of recentering yourself to go like, where am I at in the business? If I need a little clarity, it's like 23 steps, which you can follow and kind of come back to throughout your career and to say, how do I refocus here? What do I need to fix? What am I missing? It's like, it kind of comes down to business is a game. It really is. It's got real world consequences and benefits and risks and rewards, but it's a game and there's rules to the game. And the more you can abide by the rules, I think the easier of a time you'll have achieving and attaining the benefits of the game of business. So that's what I have to say about them.
You know what I have to say about that? Yummy.
Yummy.
That's yummy. That was yummy. That was what it was. All right. Thank you, everybody, for listening to this episode of 2 Pixels Off. If you like our podcast, please let us know by dropping a review in your podcast platform or a comment in our YouTube video. We appreciate seeing all of those. We appreciate your time listening and hope you get a little value out of this. And final shout out to our provider of sustenance for the 2 Pixels Off podcast, and that is Wix Studio. We appreciate the team at Wix Studio that really brought Brad and I together a couple years ago and make this podcast possible. So shout out to Wix Studio, and thank you all little pixels for listening to this episode of 2 Pixels Off. We'll see you again next time.